Why?
So we went to a movie theater.
Yeah, we braved COVID and went and saw a movie. We could have seen Jurassic Park, but no.
We wanted something new.
We wanted something new. We went and saw New Mutants.
Oh, we saw it. Yes, we did.
We did. We saw New Mutants.
Let me just start off by saying that it was just nice to be in a movie theater again.
It was. It was. Yeah, there was only 6 people in the theater, but it was nice to be in a theater experience.
It really was. And you know, the way they're doing it, they're blocking off, so you have like the 2 seats, then the next 2 are blocked off, then 2 seats, and the next 2, and so on and so forth. And then they checkerboard it all the way up to the top. And you know, it was fine. There was a couple couples in there, and you know, it was just nice to sit back and be in a theater again.
Exactly, seeing something with coming attractions and the smell of popcorn and the sticky floors and all that and everything that goes along with being in a theater.
I thought it was pretty interesting too. You know, usually before the COVID lockdown, we'd go to the theater and they'd show like 15 trailers. It felt like at least 8 to 10, and there were only 3 last night.
That's right.
We got
that's right. Yeah, there weren't
Tenet, Wonder Woman, and that disaster movie with the asteroids coming down.
Oh yeah.
With what's his name from 300. So yeah, it was nice.
Shows you how impressed we were with it.
Right, exactly. I was like, oh no, was this like a Roland Emmerich disaster movie?
It looked better than a Roland Emmerich disaster movie. I will give it that.
Yeah. But it was great. It was almost like old times where they only showed 2 or 3 trailers and into the movie we go. So
yeah, there weren't any advertisements for M&Ms. There weren't any, you know, your local car dealerships. It was down to business.
Yeah, it was. And it's funny because I remember just before the shutdown, I was taking my daughter to a movie, and we were really pushing it. You know, it's like starting at 3 p.m. or something in the afternoon. It was already like 5 of 3, and we're miles away. And I said, this is going to be a close call. And my then 7-year-old daughter said, oh, come on, Dad. We got a half an hour with all the trailers and commercials. Don't worry about it. So she caught on pretty quick that it's, you know, what bothers me is, and I know why they do it, because they want your ass in the seat when they show that stuff. But that should come before the start time. If the movie's supposed to start at 3, start the movie at 3. That's my feeling.
Right.
You know, because you end up, you know, you budget your time accordingly, but you end up a half hour, 45 minutes late because of all that junk that's slammed in there. So let's get down to business.
New Mutants is a movie. It has a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah. It
wasn't bad. It just wasn't that good.
It was one of these things I like to call a missed opportunity. I like the fact that they tried something completely different with it. It wasn't the Xavier School for Gifted Youngsters, you know, oh, come on in, you know, we're going to teach you how to harness your powers and this and that. I like that that they were in this like sanitarium. And it was the Essex Corporation is behind the whole thing. And Mr. Sinister there or whatever. I wish they'd ever show him. I think one of the telling things about this movie is it's very low budget, because they're in a sanitarium and there's one person there working in Dr. Ray.
Yeah. This is definitely done on the cheap.
Yeah. There's no, you know, you'd think they'd at least have security. They'd have a couple of you know, attendants or nurses' aides, if you will, some other,
especially if you got such dangerous patients.
Right. I mean, you know, halfway through the movie, we find out that Danielle is so powerful they got to put her down, and she's all alone. This woman. So,
spoilers, by the way. Spoilers.
Oh,
we've seen it. We've seen it, so you don't have to.
We should have.
I'm guessing. Yeah.
Spoiler alert. I'll put it on the thumbnail. Spoiler alert. So why don't we just kind of walk through it a little bit? The movie opens with a young girl. She gets her father wakes her up, and off they go, because they're running from some kind of disaster, which they tell you is a tornado. We find out later that it's not a tornado.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Yeah. She wakes up in a hospital, and she's getting tests run on her by Dr. Cecilia Reyes. Reyes. Oh yes, Dr. Reyes. So basically, they're trying to figure out, what happened, what she saw. They ask her pretty much off the bat, "Do you know what a mutant is?" And of course, yeah, she does. So in this universe, the mutants and the X-Men are common knowledge.
Right. She goes into these. They look like AA meetings, or these like PTSD survivors groups.
Yeah, it's just this group therapy stuff.
Yeah, and meets the other mutants in this facility. And we're introduced to who become Cannonball, Sunspot, Magic, and Wolfsbane. Magic being the only New Mutant who wasn't one of the original New Mutants in the comic book. The other were all original New Mutants from the comic book. And a little trivia for you, if you don't know, Ilya Rasputin is Peter Rasputin's sister, Peter Rasputin being Colossus of the X-Men. So
he's right, comrade.
Yes. So there's a little tie there for eagle-eyed comic book fans. And here they are in the therapy session there. My problem here, the movie completely bogs down right here.
Yeah, it was
several of these scenes, and they go nowhere. What all we learn from that is that Cannonball's got some kind of weird PTSD problem. He's got some issue going on. He's got this guilt complex. We've got Sunspot, who's just cocky and looking to nail every one of the girls. We've got Magic, Rasputin there, who's just like a jerk.
Yeah, she's got a huge chip on her shoulder. She is definitely a bully.
And we meet Rain, who's Wolfsbane, and Rain is very sensitive and actually the only one who seems a little caring here out of the whole group. The only
Which
one
has a payoff later on, sort of.
Right. So immediately we have Danielle, our new character, tasked with, hey, the doors they're open. You can leave whenever you want. She gets played by Magic and runs into a force field, revealing that they are actually prisoners in some kind of a sanitarium, if you will.
Yeah, it's not a hospital, it's a cage, I believe, is actually one of the lines.
Right. So Danielle, now tortured by nightmares, as they all are, decides, I'm just going to jump off the clock tower, and gets talked out of it by Rain, Wolfsbane. And they quickly become really good friends.
Really close friends.
Yeah.
Really close friends.
I'm watching that scene. They're on the clock tower. And I picked up on it right away. And I'm like, oh no, they're not going to do this, are they? Now, keep in mind that they're establishing that these girls are somewhere between the ages of 13 and 15-ish.
Yeah, the actresses themselves are in their 20s, but they look like they're 13, 14, and they have a lot of references to puberty and that special time.
Right. Oh, and they, as we all know from, reading the comics and or watching the X-Men movies, they have made it a point that your mutant powers usually manifest themselves at puberty. So, Danielle is having, her first bouts with coming to grips with being a mutant. So they suddenly have a really uncomfortable scene for me. I was squirming.
Yeah, I wasn't particular. If you're going to describe this scene, I know exactly which one you're talking about. And it was unpleasant. It was not unpleasant is the wrong word. Uncomfortable. It was because they were supposed to be 13.
They look it. I mean, these two girls might be 20 years old, but they look 14 years old. And there's a shower scene. And they're in the shower together. And the scene serves absolutely no purpose. And I was just cringing.
It shows off that Wolfsbane has a W branded onto her shoulder.
They could have
or an upside down M. Werewolf, mutant, take your pick.
Oh, I never considered the upside down M. Right.
Yeah, because it turns out to be an M when she gets branded later on. Spoilers, when she gets branded again in the movie.
Right.
So
I think my brain was melting by that point.
yeah,
Yeah, so they have this really awkward shower scene. And then Danielle leaves the shower, leaves Wolfsbane alone, and then she has some kind of a vision of something horrible happening. And all the kids start having these nightmares and visions of something horrible happening. And nobody can explain why. And you're not quite sure if it is a dream or if it's actually manifesting itself physically.
yeah. If the place is just haunted, but it clearly, they establish it right from the get go that it's not a kind place. So maybe there's something in the air.
Right. Kind of reminded me of Shutter Island, the way the whole place looked and felt. So, as it progresses, I mean, in the first 2 acts are painfully slow. I mean,
oh God, yeah,
I was actually starting to fight drowsiness. I was like, stay awake. This is going to go somewhere, right? It was very slow. And, the whole time Dr. Reyes is monitoring, she's spying on them all with cameras, and she's got them all fitted with monitors that monitor their heart rate, their pulse, their brain activity, all this kind of stuff. And it's going back to the Essex Corporation, and they're sending orders based on the readings that they're getting. She finally gets an order that she has to put Danielle down because her mutant power is too powerful. And apparently
that she can basically summon the fears of everybody around her and manifest them, which turns out to be, again, spoilers, what is going on. Everybody's fears are manifesting because Danny is there. That's her power.
Right. So now at this point, we're well past an hour into the movie, and there's about 20 minutes left when we actually get to the crux of the story. And Danielle is being gassed to death by Dr. Reyes, and she gets freed by her compadres and summons the demon bear, which is her greatest fear. This demon bear that her father used to tell her about as a kid. And the thing comes smashing into the place and eats Dr. Reyes and generally wreaks havoc until Danielle gets her faculties, composes herself, and says, "Please stop. And
go away, bear.
Go away,
bad bear. Bad bear. Bad bear."
Didn't it feel like someone scolding a dog?
It did. It did. It was. There was a scene from an episode of Doctor Who that it kind of reminded. He winds up beating the monster of the week is a little kid, and he winds up telling, "Go to your room."
That's exactly what it felt like.
That kind of what it felt like. It's basically, bad dog, go to your room.
Yeah. I was waiting for her to hit the bear with a rolled up newspaper. Of course, the kids are out there going, "What's a newspaper?" So yeah, and then problem solved, and they find out that the force field that was around the hospital, by the way, was actually a force field that Dr. Reyes projected, because we find out at some point during this whole kerfuffle, as they try to save Danielle, that she puts force fields around each of them and starts to suffocate them all.
Yeah, she's a pretty powerful mutant herself,
but now she got eaten by a fake bear. So
the force fields are down. They've heard rumor that the nearest town is 20 miles away. Hey, you want to find out? And they go walking into the sunset.
The end. And there will be no more New Mutants movies, nor will they end up as X-Men, because this movie sat on a shelf for almost 3 years, and now we know why.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. It was kind of drawn out. I mean, I suppose maybe if I was a younger kid, a teenager, this probably would have been considered really scary, and considering that, mutants are generally more accepted by, because you're different, being, you're gay, you're a different nationality, you're just a plain old teenager. I might not have been the target audience. Maybe that's why I didn't enjoy it as much. Don't know. Maybe it was just a bad movie.
To me, it felt like a CW movie that was brought into the theater. It was almost like Riverdale the movie, or something like that, where they, definitely the target audience was kids who watch those kind of shows, I think.
Yeah.
You had the kid from Stranger Things playing Cannonball. And I guess this is a good point to talk about the characters weren't quite right. Cannonball was the biggest one for me, was completely ruined. I know he's supposed to be a gangly, awkward teenager who's really struggling with his power, but this guy, he basically did the same thing he did in Stranger Things, is just walk around and over emote.
Hey, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right. I was disappointed. I thought Sunspot looked great when he was Sunspot, but he's Sunspot for a grand total of 35 seconds, I think, in this film. He flames up twice for a very short amount of time and does absolutely nothing.
He's expensive.
He's expensive. Right. Who else?
Demon bears don't pay for themselves, you know.
Well, clearly the budget went into the climax of the film. I wouldn't even say the third act. I'll just say the climax of the film. I thought Magic was by far the highlight of the movie. She looked just like the comic book character physically. I didn't like the spoiled brat attitude she had, but she's pretty rebellious in the comics. She's pretty reckless. And when she actually fought the demon bear, and her puppet of Lockheed the dragon was actually a dragon on her shoulder, just like the book, I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And, when her arm would metallicize and become the sword, looked really good. So I really enjoyed Magic, except for the bratty shenanigans that went on a little too long with her before she softened. Rain Wolfsbane, I thought, was really, really well done. I liked her too.
Yeah, she's a really accomplished actress.
Yes, and they could have used a little bit more of the wolf, but again, money takes money to do that. Nobody really gets to flex their muscles except for Magic in this whole thing. The rest of them get to use spotty. Even Dr. Reyes only has one scene where she really uses her powers. So it definitely felt constrained by its budget, which I think caused the pacing problems they had early on in the movie, because they couldn't do anything except talk. All they did was talk, and they all had the same kind of issue. All of them. They're okay. We get it. You're all awkward teenagers going through puberty and mutant. You're mutant in whatever you'd say, mutants. But do we need to talk about it for 60 minutes?
Yeah, and then there's multiple scenes of them escaping or rebelling to different parts of the sanitarium where they supposedly can't be seen. So they're having a scene over here where they're all talking and getting to know each other. And then they have a scene over here where they're talking to each other and getting to know each other. It's basically there's I would say that there's three. I don't even remember the specifics of them. There's one with a lie detector. But I don't.
Right. Yep. And that scene gets truncated for some reason, which I don't really remember already. I mean, it's a day later, and I'm like struggling to remember a lot of this.
Yeah, I have the Wikipedia page open because I really don't remember. I don't remember a lot of what was going on. I mean, I remember specific moments.
Right.
I remember some of the effects, kinda, but it's kind of like, bad fast food. You're hungry a half hour later. I don't even remember eating it.
You're right. Yeah, I mean, it started with a bang. I was interested, when she first woke up in the hospital and what's going on here, but then it was scene after scene after scene of exposition dumps and teen angst, and I was getting a little bored with it. I know there's been a lot of issues out there with the casting, particularly of Sunspot and Reyes. But they're, Sunspot is supposed to be from Brazil and the actor's from Brazil. So, okay.
Some people have a problem with that actor, and why? I don't know.
We're in the day of, no matter what you do, it's just not good enough, right? You're not doing a faithful comic adaptation. You're doing your own interpretation of it. Taking that stuff off a 1983 comic book and trying to make it screen accurate is very difficult to do. I didn't really have a problem with the casting. I had more of a problem with the way the characters were actually portrayed, and they did hardly anything in the film. So lost opportunity. The only other thing I think we should touch on, there was an issue with crediting the creator of the film.
Yeah.
So Bob McLeod, accomplished Marvel writer and artist, tweeted his thoughts yesterday. Starting here, I was very excited when I heard they were making a new Mutants movie. I thought making it into a horror movie was perhaps an interesting idea, but not at how all the characters should be introduced to the public at large. But hey, my characters are in a movie. I never would have thought that would actually happen, but then I was disappointed when they didn't give Danny braids, although I like Blue Hunt. I was disappointed when Rain wasn't a redhead with spiky hair, although I adore Maisie Williams. Now, she kind of had reddish hair.
It was too dark. I couldn't tell you.
Yeah, well, the whole movie's very dark. The cinematography is not the greatest. I was disappointed that Sam isn't tall and gawky. Yeah, me too. Although I do like Charlie Heaton. Charlie Heaton's fine, like I said, but they just took the character from Stranger Things and dropped him into this movie. He's exactly the same. But mainly, I was very disappointed that Roberto isn't short and dark-skinned. Yet another example of Hollywood whitewashing. There's just no excuse. Now, I'm sorry, Bob. I got to disagree with you on that. The kid's from Brazil. I'm sorry if he's just not dark enough for you. And I don't see what the problem is with making him tall. And they made him kind of, he's like AC Slater in this movie. It's like a Saved by the Bell thing. Like he's the school stud. He's like the jock. And
comes from a rich family, and
right. And he's carefree because he's a trust fund kid, and he's a skirt hound. He wants to have sex with all of the girls. So whatever. He's a teenage guy. Come on. We had this with Hugh Jackman playing Wolverine. He was a foot too tall. Did anybody have a problem with that? Fuck no. Because why? Nailed it. I think maybe if they gave Roberto more to do in the movie, he might not have said something like this. So
yeah, he's kind of there. He washes dishes. He pouts for a scene, and then he finally gets to become a CGI character.
One scene that bothered me at the end when the bear is trashing the chapel and he's hiding under a pew, really, that drove me nuts. That drove me nuts. Like, come on, man. This guy's he's like the Human Torch. What's he hiding for? Come on, man. That pissed me off. You want to complain about something they did wrong with Roberto. That's what they did wrong with Roberto. So basically, Josh Boone erased everything I contributed to the way the characters look, and now the movie has come out at last, and apparently they've credited someone named Bob McLeod as creator. Or McLeod. They couldn't spell his name right. You can see the spelling of his name is Raichao, and they put an MAC. So, yeah. And I wouldn't necessarily blame the director, although he ultimately has complete control over this. But that's whoever did the titles.
Yeah, I mean, it's still boiled. I mean, the buck does stop with the director, though. The director should have said or somebody along the line should have said, "Hey, wait a second, that's wrong."
I agree. So, overall, on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being
1 to 5.
What would you give the New Mutants?
1 to 5. 2, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going.
I mean, if you want to go to the movies and see something new, I mean, it's there.
Right.
It's there. It's not. It's. You're not going to be blown away by it, unless you're a kid. Maybe. If I was still a teenager, I would think this was the greatest thing on the planet. I don't know.
I don't know either. I'm going to go with you. I'll give it up to a 2 because it was a valiant effort to do something different. We've had 9 X-Men movies, and I'm glad they tried something completely.
Yeah, definitely give it points for trying something completely different. And different is not always good, and it it didn't really hurt it in this case. It didn't quite live up to its potential.
I agree. I also will go with a 2 for solid 2 because the casting was good. I thought all
Yeah, they were all solid
the actors
actors.
were solid actors. And I did like those CGI monsters that were chasing
Oh,
Ileana.
the Smile Men,
Yeah, the
I
smile man.
believe they're called.
Yeah, those were cool. I wish there was more of those.
Voiced by Marilyn Manson, oddly
Right,
enough.
right. And lastly, I did like the when you finally got to see them all fight the demon bear and stuff. And I think all this to get it to a 2, I think we were actually aided by the fact that we were sitting in a movie theater watching it. And it was kind of like you could have showed me a steaming pile of shit just sitting there for 90 minutes, and I probably would have said, I'll give that a 2 because I'm in the movies.
Yeah, I think that definitely helped. I think if that was something on a small screen, I probably would have given up after about 35 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. That first
Yeah.
act dragged so bad, I probably would have shut it off.
The shower scene, I probably would have said, "Okay, that's enough. I'm done with that."
Yeah, and we didn't even go into the fact that they made the 2 girls, Rain and Danielle, lovers.
Hey, couple.
And again, that bothered me on the level that they're normalizing stuff like that at such a young age. And I'm just thinking, what if my daughter was 12 or 13 watching this? I was uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's under if they were older characters and then they went out of their way to explain that these are the older students. Okay, fine, but they do really heavily imply that they're only 13 or 14 years old, and it's a little uncomfortable. The fact that they do hook up, nothing wrong with that, but the fact that they're so young,
It's their age. And
yeah,
it's really bothered me. It had P to the E to the D to the O implications hanging all over the top of it, and that's
the unfortunate thing.
Yeah, I can't justify that. Will not. So, all right. Well, if you saw the New Mutants and you disagree with us, drop us a line. If you saw the New Mutants and you agree with us, drop us a line. So we'll do more of these. This was fun.
This was fun. There's movies eventually coming out. Tenet's coming out soon. Wonder Woman's coming out soon. I didn't see the original Wonder Woman, so I'm going to have to do my homework before seeing Wonder Woman 84.
A good homework.
Yeah.
You'll love. I really love that movie. It's good.
Okay.
Yeah. So then maybe a little Bill and Ted.
And a little Bill and Ted. It's playing in my town.
Yes. So with that, I will use a Bill and Ted. Be excellent to each other. And party on, dude. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel. If you subscribe, make sure you click the little bell icon to be notified anytime someone from our show drops new content here. Thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you soon.